Well, joining me now to talk more about some of the headlines from today's meeting is Dan Hanson, Senior Portfolio Manager at Neuberger Berman. And Dan, I know you're a veteran of these meetings, a couple dozen of them, I guess. First of all, before we get to those specific items, what's your leading takeaway from the day's Q&A and Warren's comments?
Yeah, Mike, thanks. After 25 of these, I do tend to think, let's settle through what really resonates. For me, there's one quote, and it's Ajit Jain, who stole the show with his quote, Tim Cook proved that nobody's irreplaceable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was interesting. He made a point to interject that about this idea that he himself wouldn't be irreplaceable as head of the insurance businesses. And so what does that say to you as it relates to what we look ahead to for Berkshire Hathaway?
So I think a lot of the message and the objective of the 6 hours was communicating you've got a sound hand in terms of the management and leadership that Greg Abel is going to provide, that he's been providing, his unique operating focus, which is a different approach than Buffett as a capital allocator. And so that message resonated a number of times. Ajit, in having more airtime, conveying the importance of the insurance business. But then additionally, Buffett later commented that Tim Cook made a perfect sequential partner to Jobs. So, and likewise, I think the message being communicated, Greg Abel and the Berkshire enterprise, a perfect sequential partner for Buffett.
And that point that we just hit on there about, Buffett expressing his desire, perhaps, that Abel also oversee the investment side. First of all, is that truly news to you, or do you think that was sort of settling an open question? And what do you think about that in terms of the future of Berkshire as an investment?
I think it was news, not just for me, but even Buffett shared for himself. His thinking had evolved. So shortly after Susie, abruptly passed away, almost 20 years ago now, Buffett announced, hey, I'm going to bring a couple of investors in-house. Lou Simpson had retired, and so Ted and Todd were brought in the fold. But I think that over time, his view, and then he shared with us, has evolved in terms of passing the baton. So I thought it was a quite forceful and notable message around the buck's going to stop with Greg Abel in terms of capital allocation. And let me actually square that to some other comments over the course of today's meeting and a broader view on Buffett. He believes in singular leadership. He certainly believes in sounding board, getting advice, having a board, but he does believe in singular leadership. And a few things that I would pull together in terms of the message around his feeling confidence about Greg providing that leadership, pointing to the analogies of the 08-09 credit crisis environment. Other market players had the capital put to work, but they didn't have the ability to make decisions. So clearly Buffett wants Berkshire as an institution to make those decisions. That can't be done by committee. One of Buffett's favorite expressions, like a committee, I look in the mirror, and that's the committee.
And are you, as a Berkshire investor, also equally confident about the company under Abel as Buffett is?
Absolutely, and that's what we heard this year, and we got greater showcasing. So this is not the first year to have on the day as Greg Abel and Ajit Jain, but there's more airtime, more substance to it. And increasingly it was, hey, let Ajit lead with the answer to the insurance businesses. Let Greg really take center stage to convey that mastery. We know that that's there, but there was greater and very deliberately greater clarity to that, I think.
What do you make, if anything, really, about the portfolio shuffling? I mean, he went out of his way to express that, Paramount's now out of the portfolio, and it was his decision on both ends of it. And then also the trimming of Apple.
Yeah, so the Paramount, interesting, he took full accountability just to get rid of speculation and the constant sort of inference of what that means for the deputies, Ted and Todd. And that I put in the spirit his humility of, hey, you don't get them all right.
Yeah.
But he's made the expression, look, you don't want to be the cat that never sits on the stove again. As a capital allocator, it's their job to take risk, reasoned risk. But that's my perspective on that. In terms of the Apple sale, that was intriguing, fairly meaningful trim. In the past, when he'd trimmed, he'd said Charlie had urged him against that in so many words, and that maybe it wasn't the right thing to have trimmed. So that was intriguing and squared with his comments about, in general, cautiousness about putting capital to work. So so the war chest going to 182 and upwards of 200 billion is in part that you're getting in a good overnight rate with no risk.
Absolutely. Dan, really appreciate your thoughts to break down the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.